Krystal, what are you taking a look at?
Well, guys, we are less than 1 month out from the midterm elections now, and the landscape has increasingly come into focus. Now, in some ways, it has a certain logic to it. Democrats are overwhelmingly running on abortion. That is an issue, of course, where they have a huge and commanding lead. Republicans are overwhelmingly running on crime, an issue where they also have a large and commanding lead. We talked to Kyle Kondik yesterday, who watched hours of midterm election ads so that you don't have to, and he found an overwhelming focus on these two topics to the near exclusion of everything else. Now, crime and abortion do seem to have some salience with the public. Democrats were able to short-circuit a coming red wave of epic proportions by seizing on the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Republicans have been able to regain some of their ground, regain some momentum in recent weeks by leaning hard into crime as part of a backlash to the George Floyd protests and calls to defund the police. But on another level, it all looks kind of insane because no one is actually running on the issue that voters tell pollsters over and over and over again is actually the most important to them. That would be the economy. Now, here are the numbers. They're visualized quite well by Pew Research. You can take a look at this. At the very top, that line that you see there standing alone, that is voters overwhelmingly saying the economy is very important to their midterm vote. Now, those numbers up at the top are essentially unchanged from March through the summer, with nearly 80% of voters saying the economy is key to winning them over. Below that, you see a whole cluster of a bunch of different issues. You got post-Dobbs with Democrats leaning into abortion. That issue salience has spiked. Same with crime, which has seen a jump in interest as Republicans and their media apparatus have increasingly focused in on that issue. But both abortion and crime still completely dwarfed by concerns about the economy. And of course, that makes a lot of sense. The Fed is determined to crush wages, determined to spike unemployment. Gas prices are ticking back up as OPEC Plus has instituted a new production cut. And CNBC is highlighting new signs that all of this stress and strain is in fact making it very difficult for Americans to make ends meet. New data from LendingTree shows that 1/3 of Americans failed to pay a bill in the last 6 months. 61% of those said it was because they simply didn't have the money. Most of those who fell behind on a bill said they failed to pay a utility, credit card, cable, or internet bill. As a LendingTree analyst put it, quote, "Life is getting more expensive by the day, and it's shrinking Americans' already tiny financial margin for error down to zero." Now, you might think that one of our two major parties might see this pain and uncertainty and offer some sort of an affirmative agenda that would help ease the burden for working people. Sure, Republicans, they'll inveigh against inflation and cable news hits, but they've offered literally nothing in terms of actual solutions. And the vacuousness of this message apparently led to it falling flat with voters, which is why they switched focus, leaning in recent weeks into visceral ads about crime to try to regain the upper hand. As far as Democrats go, they just don't seem to talk about the economy really at all, even immediately memory holing the big economic program Biden just announced weeks ago, which was to cancel large amounts of student debt. Now, this landscape of neither party promising anything on the economy by default is going to benefit Republicans. If people are struggling, they're understandably going to blame the party that is in power. So really, the onus is on the Democrats to offer some compelling solutions for working class pain. This looming political disaster where Democrats de facto give Republicans the upper hand on the economy, again, the number one issue, is why an exasperated Bernie Sanders is now calling out his Democratic colleagues for their single-minded obsession on abortion. In a new op-ed for The Guardian, Sanders writes in part, quote, "As we enter the final weeks of the 2022 midterm elections, I am alarmed to hear the advice that many Democratic candidates are getting from establishment consultants and directors of well-funded super PACs that the closing argument of Democrats should focus only on abortion. Cut the 30-second abortion ads and coast to victory." Bernie goes on to bash Republicans for standing in the way of living wages, taxing billionaires, universal health care, and paid time off, before lamenting that in spite of Republicans standing in lockstep against this popular economic agenda, quote, "In poll after poll, Republicans are more trusted than Democrats to handle the economy, the issue of most importance to people." He says he believes that if Democrats do not fight back on economic issues and present a strong pro-worker agenda, they could well be in the minority in both the House and the Senate next year. Now, Democrats have a recent example, the power of this sort of material politics that Senator Sanders is advocating for. During the Georgia Senate runoffs, you'll recall, Democrats were severe underdogs, but they managed to pull off a clean sweep on the clear and compelling promise of $2,000 checks, with a little assist from Donald Trump as well, I might add. Now, Biden has already promised that with 2 more Democratic senators, he would codify Roe versus Wade. Okay, that's good, but he can and should do a whole lot more. He should promise to use a Democratic majority to ditch the filibuster and pass a populist working class agenda that will help ordinary Americans and will punish the corporate price gougers and economic royalists. Wall Street types would throw a fit. Great, that would only make it better politics. It defies all political logic to cede to Republicans what is undeniably the most important issue for the largest number of voters. The only possible explanation for such political malpractice is a desire to avoid making any promises that they may then have to keep. And it's a testament to just how screwed up our politics is that on the most important issue for ordinary voters, our political class has literally nothing to say. Their silence speaks volumes. And Saagar, I was looking at the numbers. This is going to be the most expensive. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.